The leaders of Germany and France will discuss the future of transatlantic relations with U.S. President Joe Biden during a special virtual mini edition of the Munich Security Conference. It'll be an opportunity to show how much or how little the EU has in common with the new Washington administration. DW's chief international editor Richard Walker gives us his take on some potentially thorny issues.
The 4 years of the Trump administration were a toxic age for transatlantic relations. Angela Merkel could barely conceal her relief after Joe Biden's victory.
With President Biden, we simply have a much wider range of political agreement.
But that doesn't mean that the US and Germany suddenly agree on everything. They really don't. So we're going to take a look at 3 issues that are right at the top of the transatlantic agenda. First up, Nord Stream 2, a Russian natural gas pipeline under construction to Germany that Team Biden says must never be completed.
It's a bad deal because it divides Europe, it exposes Ukraine and Central Europe to Russian manipulation, and because it goes against Europe's own stated energy and security goals.
The US is even threatening sanctions against companies involved in the project. Here in Berlin, the government says that that is no way to treat an ally. So the big question is, can Merkel and Biden find some sort of compromise? Next, China. The rising giant challenging US leadership in almost every thinkable way and shocking the democratic world with its crackdown on freedoms in Hong Kong. The US and China are entering a period of profound confrontation, and Biden wants US allies firmly on side. But on that, Merkel seems decidedly cagey. We pressed her on this just recently, asking why she seemed reluctant to line up behind the new president on China.
I believe that it is very important for the European Union to have its own China policy.
It's really no surprise that Merkel is so cautious. China is, after all, a massive market for Germany's export-driven economy. But there could come a time when Biden says, you have to pick sides. Finally, in the biggest crisis of all for the world, perhaps more hope for transatlantic togetherness. Climate change is back as a top priority for the US after 4 years of denial. John Kerry is the new team's climate czar, a high-profile name raising hopes that the US and Europe can make progress together on cutting back on carbon. But there's one thing that transcends all of these global issues for leaders watching Biden from here in Europe. They remember how his presidency began, with Washington bracing for violence after its very democracy came close to collapse. Their biggest question will be, can Biden restore some stability to America? Because if he can't, they fear another Trump could be on the way.
All right, let's look ahead to the Munich Security Conference now with our political correspondent, Jared Reed. Hi, Jared. What is the European security community expecting from President Biden? That he will reset the transatlantic relationship?
I guess they're expecting some attempts at relationship repair and a commitment to multilateralism, and I guess some efforts to try and undo some of the damage over the last 4 years, because as we just heard in that report, there is some wariness, but there are signs that things are moving in the right direction. Yesterday on DW, we heard from Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, the German defense minister. She had just come from a meeting with her new US counterpart, and she seemed very pleased with how those talks went and said there was a markedly different tone speaking to this Secretary of Defense than the one under the Trump administration. That's not to say that there aren't significant issues to overcome, as we heard in that report, issues like China. The US sees China as a strategic threat, whereas Europe is deepening its ties to China through things like the investment deal it reached with China at the end of last year. Also, Russia, significant differences of opinion between Germany and the US over Nord Stream 2, but they're more on the same page when it comes to condemning the Kremlin for its treatment of political dissenters like Alexei Navalny. So some significant difference in points of view and positions, but also signs that point in a more positive direction.
Against that backdrop, what policy points are we going to see discussed at this conference?
Well, aside from what I mentioned, we have to make note of the fact that this conference is drastically scaled back this time because of the pandemic. So the pandemic is going to be a big talking point, specifically how to cooperate better during this pandemic and future pandemics, what the economic recovery will look like going forward, and also vaccines. We're expecting an announcement from Joe Biden, as we heard a little bit earlier, a multi-billion-dollar effort to help poorer countries have better access to vaccines, which is a significant problem right now. Also to Iran, the Biden administration has signalled that it's willing to re-enter talks with other world powers and Iran on a potential rejoining of the Iran nuclear deal that the Trump administration left.
Our political correspondent, Jared Reed, thank you.